DK Metcalf is requesting a trade. Per Diana Rossini of The Athletic, they reported that Metcalf requested a trade, and the Seahawks want a first or a third round pick, a first and a third round pick in return. They also apparently said that Metcalf wants a new contract that could be worth up to $30 million per year, which is a huge amount. DK Metcalf, to me, fits perfectly with the Green Bay Packers, but apparently the Packers don't have interest in DK Metcalf. So the question that I now ask is, where does he fit? I know he wants to go to a contender. I want to see DK Metcalf play for the Patriots. I want to see him play for New England. I want to see, and I keep pushing the thought of weapons going to New England and getting Drake May opportunities to shine. DK Metcalf is how you're going to do that. Getting him guys that he can just rip the ball to down the sideline and pick up big plays. I don't know where else he'd want to go. They have the cap room to pay him. It's the best spot.
God, I wanted to bash your first option so bad. I wanted to bash it. I love it. I love DK to the Patriots. Give Drake May, who I think is an emerging star in the league, an absolute weapon on the outside. You know, they got it done a little bit with like the Mario Douglas and the Island of Misfit Toys offense that they've been running. But it's time to start taking yourself seriously. Go after some legitimate targets out of the outside. No more missing on receivers in the draft. Just be competent now. It's time. It's the Vrabel era. It is an absolute machine that is going to be taking over in New England. Give Drake May a weapon. I'm going to vouch for the hometown team, though. I think they're more of a contender, the hometown team being the Atlanta Falcons, more of a contender.
That's not how that works.
Than the New England Patriots at this point. I think they would have the cash. They're still trying to sign Darnell Mooney back, who would be a fantastic slot. You have Drake London on the outside. Put DK Metcalf across from him. Kyle Pitts, you could put at running back for all I care at this point. Give me the tallest offense in NFL history, and let's shock the world.
You're stealing my bit. By the way, put the overlay on us when you have a second. This was my bit that I tweeted out yesterday. Imagine, it's so impractical. Imagine Drake London at 6'5", DK Metcalf, who's a speed demon at 6'4" and as big as he is. And then on top of this, you have Kyle Pitts, who's 6'5", 6'6". You would have the most unnecessarily tall receiving core in the NFL for no reason. You get the opportunity for Michael Penix just to launch the ball as high and as far as possible. Are you having trouble finding the overlay?
I got it.
Okay. You're making a lot of
look, we got a lot of images in here right now. We're floating around.
Yes, I think that for the chaos factor, that would be the most comically large receiving core. I have no idea if it would work, but yeah, I would support that.
How could it not work? Michael Penix Jr. dropping back the southpaw, throwing 60-yard bombs to DK Metcalf. He doesn't catch it. He gets called for defensive pass interference, and we're on the 30. It's a great offensive scheme and game plan. Bijan Robinson.
He's too small.
Oh, you think he doesn't meet our requirements on the roller coaster?
You got to go get Savion Williams in this class is a 6'3" receiver that is apparently some teams have him as a running back. You got to go get him out of TCU.
Here's the nasty work I did see. I think you posted some film of him.
I haven't.
Who
I
did?
Have not.
Did Ryan post some film of him?
He might have.
Yes,
might
he
have
did.
Been him.
Interested in that player for sure. If DK Metcalf wanted to start some really nasty work, every other team in the NFC West needs a number 2 wide receiver. The Rams need one. The Cardinals pairing him with Marvin Harrison Jr. would be spectacular.
That I would support.
And the 49ers just offloaded Debo, put him with Ayuk, and the 49ers
wait, stop.
Quick.
I'm shutting that one down. They don't have money for that.
I got you.
We got to. The money's the first thing.
Here.
The money is the first thing that we need to talk about, and I think a lot of people just generally don't realize that his trade value is going to be a lot lower than a first and a third. It's probably going to be more like a second round pick because he wants and needs a new contract. There's the risk of him not re-signing. I don't think that the 49ers are in a tough cap spot and they got to pay Brock. So no.
Shutting that one down. They don't need to pay Brock, by the way. They don't need
They're going to pay Brock. They shouldn't, but they're going to pay Brock.
How's this for a trade for you? I'll throw one out. DK Metcalf, Brock Purdy, Geno Smith straight up. You get Geno and DK in San Fran. Seattle gets Brock Purdy.
You're the worst general manager on the planet. You pitch
How much are you paying Brock Purdy? They need to pay Brock Purdy.
Okay, but can we be on planet Earth here for a second? That's not happening.
Look.
They're not getting rid of Brock for Geno. Also, why do you think DK is requesting a trade?
Is Brock that much higher than Geno?
No, I'm not. I'm not saying that he is. We all know that I'm not a fan of Brock Purdy, but the 49ers clearly like him and they're valuing him. They're not all of a sudden going to go, "Yep, we need Geno Smith." Also, why do you think DK Metcalf is trying to get out of Seattle? You think that he's not sick of Geno Smith? You think that he needs a better option?
Look, I got you. I was about to ask you before that madness if you think the Geno Smith cloud has pushed away DK Metcalf. He's looking for greener pastures with a better quarterback that can take him somewhere farther. Because as I think both of us have been moderately high on Seattle the last couple years. Like they've drafted really well, some strong players, and they've shown really bright flashes. But I'd be hard pressed to find someone that thinks that they go deep in the late rounds of the playoffs next season.
Not with Geno.
So I understand why DK is trying to get out. They're right on that brink of needing to make a big splash play at quarterback to capitalize on their young talent. It's a bummer DK's getting out. I think they're a year too late with the Geno stuff. I think we saw his ceiling in like year one in Seattle, and then they should have said, "That's your ceiling, pal." Like all the Darnold discourse we're having this year should have been happening for Geno Smith in his first year in Seattle.
Well, he's not as good as Sam Darnold. He's fine, and he's kind of shown us that he's fine, and he's good enough to be an average starter, but nothing more than that. I've always felt like he was aggressively and overly positively characterized as like a possible top 5 quarterback. Like everybody's been saying, like, wow, Geno, maybe he's the MVP for that first year where he was starting and he had that really good stretch. But he's not. He kind of came back.
He had a Darnold year that year.
He came back down to earth.
He had 4,300 yards, 30 touchdowns, 11 picks. It's almost identical to Darnold's year this year.
This year we came back down to earth and realizing, hey, Geno's exactly what he is. He's in his 30s. He's at the end of his career. His ceiling has always been him being an average starter, and that's what we got come to fruition. I kind of laugh, though, at how DK requests a trade, Tyler Lockett gets released, and everybody is like, how could Geno Smith do this? Like, everyone's suddenly like, oh my God, Geno Smith, this is all your fault. I do feel bad for Geno Smith in that sense. I do kind of point, I think Seattle needs to scrap it and start over. I have been saying that they need to scrap it and start over because
it's
going
tough
down
medicine to swallow. That's my reaction. I don't think you're inherently wrong, but that's tough to swallow.
They're going down the Saints path here, which is toiling around that 500 mark and just missing the playoffs or being around playoff conversation for long stretches, and then eventually everyone ages out. You're spending way too much money to keep a bunch of guys around that weren't really as good as you thought that they were, and then boom, it's all dead. It's done, and then your team's a shit show. You got to hit the reset button now. And this draft class is not going to be the draft class to do it because there's no quarterbacks for them to take unless they went Jalen Milroe in the second round or something and hope they could get something out of him. They are, I would argue, that the Seahawks are in the worst possible situation out of any team. They are in complete hell by having to get rid of DK and not really having a clear vision for their future.
God, they have some great pieces, though. If they did scrap it, they could get a king's ransom. I mean, the defensive backfield, I would hope they could keep Kobe Bryant, Witherspoon, and Love. I think it's one of the best defensive backfields in the NFL. Witherspoon, I'm a fan of. The left side of their offensive line ain't bad. Cross and Tomlinson are okay. And you know what? I'll raise the hand up accountability. I got duped by the offense. Forgot how tragic it was outside of the running backs. It's without Metcalf and without Lockett. This is a really
Jackson Smith and Jigba.
It's Jackson Smith and Jigba, Kenneth Walker III, and Zach Charbonnet. And I think, hand up again, I think I got duped because Walker and Charbonnet run so hard that I think that they're better than they actually are. So that's where I'm getting caught in the mud with Seattle, but their defensive pieces are a lot stronger than their offensive pieces.
I like Charbonnet and Walker. I think that they are a good duo. As solo backs, I don't think either of them do well, but they play off of one another really well, and their offensive line has been slowly improving, and you can improve it just a little bit more this draft class. I just look at this team, though. You're done with both receivers, when at one point it looked like, hey, this is a great trio, and now it's just Jackson Smith and Jigba. So I don't know what the hell the direction is here. the only way I think forward is starting from scratch. And the quicker you start from scratch, the quicker you build back up.
The problem is they're always competitive in that division because they're better than Arizona a little bit. They're always scrappy with Los Angeles and the 49ers and Seahawks. 49ers have the edge, but it's always tight. Like we haven't seen true runaway fashion in that division, one team holding the edge. We haven't seen a Buffalo type situation out there. It's a constant rotation of who's the number one. Seattle keeps getting caught at 3 though, and that's their problem. When they can get out of that, I think they're making noise. And you're right. The only way to do that is to make some changes.
If they were really smart, and I know we talk a lot of Sam Darnold on here, if they were really smart, they would trade Geno or they would cut Geno.
What about
something.
Howell?
Shut up. Then they would offer Darnold whatever contract he's looking for, because that's a proven guy who's much younger than Geno, who has played at a high level.
Yeah.
If they were able to figure out their receiver situation to get a secondary guy with Jackson Smith and Jigba, that offense doesn't really lose a step and it arguably gets better.
Do you think that maybe they roll with Geno and then enter themselves in the Arch sweepstakes? And that's such a weird call because you made the point last show. There's no certainty that Arch even declares.
I don't think he's going to.
Yeah.
I really don't. So no, I don't. I think that you can't have that. You can never have the belief of, oh, the next class is going to have somebody, because there's plenty of times where they don't pan out.
Right.
And just like there's plenty of times where somebody comes out of nowhere like Joe Burrow does and Jane Daniels does. But we don't know. It's so uncertain. You can't have that approach. I would think if they wanted to have a very quick, short turnaround, try and do what you can to get Sam Darnold. Try and get a second-round pick for DK. Use that second-round pick to draft one of the great receivers and the great day 2 receivers. There's not many good options, but maybe Luther Burden falls that far.
They make it work in Seattle, though. They turn mediocre guys into really good wideouts.
Good front office.
They're very good in that way. Gavin is in here being problematic. Trade DK to the Raiders for a high second. He's not going to the Raiders, pal. I know you probably want to punish DK Metcalf for requesting a trade right now, but I think he'd rather stay in Seattle than to go to that fire. Or maybe go back with Carroll. Maybe go back with Carroll.
I don't know if it's so much of a fire, though, now that you got Tom Brady in the mix. I think they're the direction's a little bit better. If
Tom Brady was throwing the ball, I'd send DK there. Tom Brady is going to be better as a quarterback than anybody they bring in, and he's going to be 47 years old this year.
What if they draft Shedeur? Okay, obviously. No, Shedeur Sanders is better than a 47-year-old Tom Brady.
No, rookie Shedeur Sanders versus 47-year-old Tom Brady.
The dude could barely move by the very end of his career.
He could move that arm. He could move those boys up to the line, get them ready to go. I guarantee. That is a crazy statement that you're making. No. I understand that if he took one big shot in his 160-pound playing weight right now.
You think he's 160?
I wouldn't be surprised.
He's a hoss. I think he's gotten bigger.
He's not a hoss.
He's gotten more jacked.
That's hollow
You're
bones.
down. Quit being so low on looks maxing Tom Brady. He's a Giga Chad. Stop. We're not doing this again.
I like old quarterbacks that start getting the salt and pepper, that start looking a little bit older.
No.
Oh, are you
like Donovan McNabb? He got really fat. Like he's like
Tom Brady when he went to Tampa originally. Dreamboat. He still had a little fat in his face. Hair started changing.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, a little bit.
No, he didn't. He was going. He was going all skeletal. He was going like all toned face. Everything. Everything was toned. He was already there.
He really leaned into it after that.
He looked 25 when he got to
Tampa
Tampa Bay.
Not look 25.
Yes, he did.
You have issues.
Yes, he did.